Well, welcome back to another part in a set of videos on scholarly habits of exegesis. This is Habits 2, Scholarly Debates regarding Greek words. We call these Greek word studies. Now, we're looking in scholarly debates about Greek word studies using multiple sources: lexicons, theological dictionaries, commentaries. Now, at this study, we're going to look at Thayer's lexicon, and we're going to actually dive into a particular word in the New Testament, ἐπιτιμαω. Now, you can get to Thayer's lexicon by looking at Bible Hub and looking at the linear. We will be looking at a scripture in Luke 17, and you can look at that online taking these resources. Now, Thayer's entries contain different information. They contain information on grammar forms, whether they're transitive or intransitive. This is different than the BDAG information. BDAG information usually gives you example definitions, example forms of the word, but it doesn't usually use intransitive and transitive. In Thayer, the major definitions use 1, 2, or some points. So to utilize, look for the best definition with your verse, and then check by looking other scriptures. You can look at other Greek words. Now let's start with Thayer for ἐπιτιμαω. You notice it's number 2137, ἐπιτιμαω. It then provides the vocabulary forms. ἐπιτιμαω, ἐπιτω for imperfect, ἐπιτιμā, third person plural, ἐπιτιμών, first aorist, ἐπιτιμησάν. And then it gives the Hebrew. It gives you definitions and then references particular classical authors. I've noticed these in red. Herodotus, Demosthenes, Herodotus. And that's where you're finding the word in Greek. So that will show you that it's to show honor, to raise the price of, to adjudicate a worm, or to tax, censor. Now, these classical authors are in the 5th and 6th century BCE in Greek. The ones that you'll find is Thucydides, Demosthenes, Herodotus, Xenophon, and Plato. Now, you probably recognize Plato. Now, let's go on to the one that we're looking at for ἐπιτιμαω with Luke 7, and that's to charge one with wrong, to tax, to fate, to rebuke. Now, notice I've looked at that, and I've found the Luke 7:3 text that I'm looking at, to charge someone with wrong, to rebuke. Now, there are several sub-definitions or groups of definitions followed by text. It says to charge someone with wrong in order to curb one's ferocity or violence. Notice the passages that are referenced. And then Jude, which has a unique particular curbing and restraining, because Jude says that even angels don't rebuke the evil spirits, but they say, God rebuke you. Another thing is to keep away from one another. And another is when it's followed by inna, which might provide an opposite of what is censored. And then it might have an addition of saying, legon, which says saying, which provides a discussion of who said it. Now, where in milder senses, it's to admonish or charge sharply. So let's take a look at how that actually works. Let's focus on to charge one with wrong in order to curb one's ferocity or violence, or to just say that's to curb kindly. You have to look at these various passages. Now, when we look at Thayer and we look at BDAG, the ones that I've marked in red are in both. And the ones that I've marked in purple, Psalm 18, Zechariah 2, and Nahum, are not in both. So most of Thayer's definitions and scriptures. So what do we say? We say the main point is God rebuking and correction, Psalm 19. You rebuke the rest. Human beings rebuking each other. Pharisees telling us Jesus to rebuke his Bible. Pharisees' recommendation to rebuke his brother. And Jesus rebuking them not to reveal their authority. In contrast, you have with the rebuking between men or a correction, is God rebuking the forces of nature. Old Testament, he rebuked the Red Sea and it dried up. And then in the New Testament, Jesus rebukes the Sea of Galilee. In Matthew and 8:26, Mark 4:39, and Luke 8:24. In contrast, God rebukes Satan and casts out demons. Zechariah 1, in Jesus rebukes demon, and Jude gives a similar image to Zechariah 2. So you really have three different concepts. People rebuking each other, and Jesus rebuking people as in his human form. So if you provide that summary, it should be fairly quick to write within 1 to 2 paragraphs. Even a single paragraph can get the concepts. Your idea is to write it in a single source. So what do? You give the 4 definitions. You say the 4th definition fits it. You give the 3 types of scriptures: God and man rebuking and correction, God rebuking forces of nature, God rebuking symbol, and simply give the examples. You can do it as quickly as God rebuking men to men, example Luke 17:3, Pharisees to Jesus, Jesus to men. And that can be your single source. You notice I've now sort of reduced all that information to clear discussion that can be done within about 5 to 6 sentences. Now, if you were to compare this with the BDAG, you would say most of the scriptures are the same as the BDAG. Number 4 is the same as the second BDAG discussion, and you give the scriptures which are different. Again, I mentioned that earlier. They're in purple. Psalm 119 rebukes are arrogant. Nahum rebukes the sea, and Malachi. Notice these are a combination of the same 3 things. God rebuking arrogant, God rebuking nature, and having something go forward. Well, the background for all of this scripture is attached. Please take a look at it as you work through the scriptures, and I appreciate you listening to all of this. We are going to continue this discussion with the BDAG Lexicon. Thank you for your time, and I hope this has been useful as you learn the methods of Greek word study.